coming on here very briefly because I wanted to talk about the fact that Brian Kohberger is literally physically disappearing before our very own eyes. Okay, if you have been paying attention to the most recent court hearings, you see him, guys. He's like losing weight very, very rapidly. Let me get a little something so I can set you down for a second. And some people have speculated, guys, that it is because he wants to trick the jury. So you guys know I have bragged time and time again about me having a psychology degree. Not only that, but I was 4.0. I think it's okay to brag about hard work. And we do learn a little bit about bias in psychology, right? So I don't have too much time, guys. But I wanted to talk about bias because for those of you who have asked me on Instagram, by the way, if you guys have any questions, you can always reach me on Instagram. Sometimes I don't respond to everybody because I do have like 1,000+ messages, so I'm doing my best. The way you look, the way you portray yourself to the world will change how people treat you, right? I know damn well that if I came up here, and I was 300 pounds heavier, you guys would treat me differently. I don't have to do that experiment to know that it's true. We all know that it's true, and vice versa. If I came up here like 30 pounds lighter with a head full of makeup, you guys would be like, oh my God, that's a model, a supermodel. It would take me from a little bit more average, I guess, now to just have people perceive me differently. I have done it before, actually as part of my psychology degree, right? So is it possible that Brian Kohberger is losing weight on purpose to trick the jury? That is what a lot of people are saying. That is what some people are asking. And this is what I'm telling you. It doesn't matter what Brian Kohberger does. It doesn't matter what Brian Kohberger says, because at the end of the day, we know that the majority of people are going to go with the majority narrative, the most popular narrative, meaning that it doesn't matter what Kohberger says or does. It doesn't even matter what type of evidence that there may be showing that he was not involved in this case whatsoever. They have already made up their minds. This man is guilty to the guilters, and that's how it's going to be. So in the early days, if you guys recall, if you've been keeping track of this case as I have been since day one, you understand that in those first court hearings where we saw Brian Kohberger be, how shall I say, look relatively normal weight, his composure for the most part has been relatively composed, right? Relatively normal. And so many people came forward and said, okay, this guy is effing weird. He obviously did it because he's cool, calm, and connected, right? He's not changing his demeanor. Now, although I have a psychology degree 4.0, I am not able to actually diagnose him just through seeing him from the court hearings, right? But let me tell you, I have always mentioned this in my videos, that it is highly possible that this man is neurodivergent. I have worked with several people. I am neurodivergent myself. I'm ADHD, and there's a lot of people that are autistic, for example, or are on the spectrum. I've always said, is it possible that Brian Kohberger is on the spectrum? I'm not diagnosing him. I'm just throwing that out there. And is it possible that that's why he seems to have relatively composed body language, right? It's possible. That being said, even though people come in all shapes, sizes, whatever, some people may keep their composure physically, right? Like they're not all antsy, ADHD, jumping all over the place, hyperactive as I am. They just might be cool, calm, and collected on the outside, right? But internally, we do not know how people are experiencing their life. It could be cool, calm, and collected just as they appear on the outside, or it could be complete chaos, completely falling apart, breaking down, struggling, anxious, depressed, whatever, you name it. So I personally believe the weight loss that Brian is experiencing, and yes, this is my opinion only, it is not because he's trying to trick the jury, because the people again have said, well, if he magically loses weight, then he's going to trick the jury because he's going to come across as less strong, less tall, less imposing, right, to a jury, meaning that the jury could jump to conclusions and say, this frail, skinny thing didn't do it. There is no way in hell. Personally, I do not think that's the case. Personally, I think he's losing weight because he is stressed. He is anxious. This case has been going on for over 2 years already, okay? This man has been incarcerated for over 2 years. By the way, I believe it is still solitary confinement. That takes a toll. I have never seen anybody be incarcerated, solitary confinement, for this long without losing weight. It just happens, right? And if we are to assume that Brian Kohberger did not commit this crime, one would assume that this is a highly stressful state to be in. Just because he looks chill when the court hearings are taking place doesn't mean he's chill internally. His insides could be wrecked. He maybe lost his appetite. That's what I think is going on. I think this man is under a lot of pressure. I think that he's trying to keep his hope up, trying to keep his faith alive. But most of us, whether you want to call it realistic or pessimistic side of us, think we know that they have tried to pin this on Brian Kohberger since day one. They needed a scapegoat, and it's not looking so hot. So I mean, we can't really blame him, right, for losing weight. We can't blame him. So again, the guilters, if he would have maintained his weight and looked normal weight or whatever, they would have been like, see, he unalived these 4 beautiful people and he doesn't even care. He's eating his amazing vegan diet and enjoying his solitary confinement. That's what they would have said. But now they're saying, oh, he's losing weight, not because he's stressed, not because he's anxious, not because, you know, he maybe didn't do it and he's afraid that he might get the DP, even though he did not commit this crime. They're saying, oh, he's doing this on purpose. He's losing pounds on purpose to trick the jury, to say, this skinny, frail man, no way in hell he did this. Which, by the way, again, yes, how we look changes our perception of people. But if you guys know anything about Ted Bundy, this man was pretty thin, was pretty frail, right, when he was in jail, when he was incarcerated. In fact, he even lost more weight in jail, if I'm not mistaken, to try to escape, or did he escaped actually from one of the parts of the roof. He moved like a tile and he left. So I think people now, hopefully most Americans, understand that just because Ted Bundy was skinny doesn't mean he didn't do it, right? He was still found guilty. So can it change the perception of Brian Kohberger from the jury? Maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way, maybe. We don't really know. All I feel, and you guys don't care about my feelings, right? But I feel that this man is really suffering, really, really stressed. And I personally think that he should, easier said than done, right? He should try to fuel himself, because at the end of the day, losing weight, especially rapidly, we know has an effect on your brain. It can actually shrink your physical brain, which is what we see a lot in laboratories with patients who have, for example, anorexia or other eating disorders, right? So the only way to really get through this is to be fueled up. Again, that's easier said than done. So personally, and I know people might hate me for this, I'm praying for everybody in this case. I'm praying for the victims. I'm praying for the families of the victims, but I'm also praying for Brian Kohberger and his family as well. This is a traumatic event, not for just the victims, but for everybody who has been involved. So just stay positive, I guess. If you like to pray, maybe pray for everybody involved. I think it can help, right? So thank you guys for joining me. Let me know, what do you think? Do you think he's doing this on purpose, or is he just effing stressed out? Because I can't imagine. I mean, even me, you guys can't tell, but I've already lost like 7 pounds, right? In like a couple weeks because I've been overworked. I can't imagine being incarcerated, maybe not being guilty whatsoever. Like, I don't know. I think I would just completely lose my appetite. So, yeah, most people don't eat when they're stressed, Chantal, right? Thank you guys for joining me in the chat. Make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, and that's it. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.